I've seen way too many people jump on a cheap drone just because the price looks right, only to discover weeks later that the camera sputters in low light, the obstacle sensors miss a tree, and the video feed drops the moment you get a little wind. That kind of buyer's remorse is what makes me pause before I even hit the buy button. If you're the type who weighs risk against reward, you're probably wondering whether splurging a little more actually saves you from that disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Autel Robotics EVO MAX 4NV2 promises to be the answer to those worries. But does it really deliver a smarter purchase, or is it just another high-priced hype machine? First off, let's talk about the category itself. Consumer drones have exploded over the past few years, and the market is now split between entry-level toys, mid-range hobby rigs, and the professional-grade workhorses that bring thermal imaging or night vision into the mix. The Max in EVO MAX 4NV2 tells you it's aiming for that upper mid-tier. You get the convenience of a foldable quadcopter with technology you'd normally only see on industrial rigs. The biggest headline feature is the Starlight Night-Vision capability, which essentially means the sensor can pull usable footage from near total darkness. On top of that, you have a thermal sensor, a laser rangefinder, and Autel's AMesh 1.0 networking that's supposed to keep the link solid even when you're navigating through urban canyons or forested trails. So who should actually consider spending on this machine? If you're a weekend hobbyist who mostly flies in bright daylight, you'll probably be fine with a $300, $500 drone that gives you 1080p video and basic GPS hold. The EVO MAX 4NV2 is a better fit for people who need the extra visual spectrum. Think search and rescue volunteers, wildlife researchers who monitor nocturnal animals, or property inspectors who have to assess heat signatures on roofs at dusk. It also makes sense for content creators who want that cinematic night city look without having to rig expensive lighting rigs on a gimbal. On the flip side, if you're just looking to capture Instagram reels in the park, the extra weight, battery consumption, and price tag could feel like overkill. One of the practical strengths that shows up when you actually take the EVO MAX out of the box is the obstacle avoidance system. Autel claims no blind spots, and in my test, the drone reliably detected branches, power lines, and even thin fence wires from multiple angles. The sensors work in tandem with the anti-jam and anti-interference layers, which means you're less likely to lose control if you're flying in a congested RF environment like near a construction site with lots of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi traffic. In real life, that translates to smoother passes around a warehouse roof while you're checking for heat leaks, and fewer, oops I hit a pole moments during a nighttime scouting run. The night vision mode is where the EVO MAX really starts to differentiate itself. I took it to a local nature preserve after sundown and pointed the camera at a creek. The video retained enough detail to see ripples and even the silhouettes of small mammals moving along the banks. It's not a full-blown infrared camera that turns everything into a green glow, but it amplifies the available light enough to make a usable picture without external illumination. Pair that with the thermal sensor, and you can quickly toggle between a visual and heat map of the same scene, a handy trick when you're trying to locate a hidden leak in a building's insulation or spotting a warm-blood animal in a dense thicket. That said, the drone isn't without its trade-offs. The first thing I noticed is the battery life. The added sensors and processing power mean you get roughly 2,025 minutes of flight time under optimal conditions, which is respectable for a drone with these capabilities, but noticeably less than a stripped-down model that only carries a basic camera. If you plan long survey missions, you'll need to factor in extra batteries or a portable charging solution. The weight is another factor. The EVO MAX sits a bit heavier than a typical hobby drone, so you'll feel the difference when you carry it on a hike. It still folds down for transport, but the added mass can make it a little less forgiving in gusty conditions. Another practical point is the learning curve. The AMesh 1.0 networking system is impressive. It creates a mesh between your controller, the drone, and any compatible repeaters you might have, which keeps the signal stable even when you're moving behind obstacles. However, setting up the mesh takes a few extra steps in the app, and the interface can feel a bit cluttered if you're new to advanced drone telemetry. I wouldn't recommend it for someone who wants a plug-and-play experience right out of the box. Spend a few minutes with the manual, and you'll avoid the frustration of losing signal mid-flight. Now, let's address the price versus value equation. The EVO MAX 4 NV2 is positioned in the $1, $300 $500 range, depending on the